I seriously didn't know that things got this bad for this Rachel Zegler Snow White movie, but I'm reading this right now, and I'm worried about Rachel Zegler's career. I don't see how she comes back from this.
There are empty theaters all around the country. We are now at a 1 out of 10 on IMDb for the new Snow White, and it couldn't happen to a better person.
She doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess.
Every time she speaks, she gets less likable.
She's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and mainly because of her, and because nobody wanted to support her.
Controversy around the film began ever since we learned that there would be no Prince Charming because apparently he kissed her without consent, and also no woman needs a man to rescue her. The movie also used CGI for the 7 dwarfs rather than actors because they thought using real people would be offensive.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And if she hadn't have opened her mouth, I think that this movie might have done well. They might have just been able to ride on the hopium of the movie and some well-cut trailers, and people would have paid to go see it. And then it would have fallen off when people knew it was garbage.
I don't think they're gonna buy it. I don't think they're gonna watch it. I don't think they're gonna like it.
But Rachel Zegler made it so hateable that you really sabotaged and took hundreds of millions of dollars from the studio. I don't know how anyone would ever want to go into business with her ever.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters. And as you know, there were no dwarfs other than some CGI weird generated version of them.
You know the say, go woke, get broke, and Disney's gonna lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
Do you know how hard it is to find an attractive young woman in Hollywood who can act and sing? It's not hard. Who just isn't going to offend half the country.
This truly is the worst casting, maybe, in the history of the film industry.
Disney's Bob Iger says their mission is to entertain, not send messaging as Snow White sales compete for worst performing live-action Disney adaptation ever.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy. The reality is she's just not stable, like the majority of people in Hollywood. They're just not stable human beings. I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
Don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too. They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
Some of you want us to hire actual dwarf humans, and then we thought we would have CGI magical creatures. How about this? We'll still offend the dwarves, but we'll CGI dwarf.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, how badly did Disney's new Snow White flop after all?
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it, you didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White.
Right.
You should shut up and do the job.
A few lessons for Disney. Number 1, stop cannibalizing all your old IP. It's really bad. It's really bad business. Number 2, please stop changing all of the historic plots which actually have meaning to generations of people to instead become generic woke story about how woman leads revolutionary uprising and she don't need no man.
For every one of the 18 hours I am in this Snow White dress, I expect to get paid. If it's 18 hours, I want 18 hours of pay. I'm sure she got underpaid as a Disney lead actress.
Music. I seriously didn't know that things got this bad for this Rachel Zegler Snow White movie. Oh, the irony. Rachel Zegler, the actress who was supposed to be Disney's next big star, the face of their reimagined Snow White franchise, is now the face of one of their biggest flops in recent memory. She's out here bragging about the film's supposed success, completely oblivious to the fact that it's tanking at the box office, that critics are savaging it, and that her own career is circling the drain faster than a poisoned apple. And this disaster, this cinematic train wreck, could have been avoided. If only Rachel Zegler had kept her mouth shut. From the moment it was announced that this new Snow White wouldn't have a Prince Charming, because apparently True Love's kiss is now considered problematic, to the baffling decision to replace the 7 dwarfs with CGI magical creatures. Because actual actors with dwarfism are apparently too offensive for Disney's delicate sensibilities, This entire project has been one giant woke-washed mess. And Rachel Zegler, with her endless stream of controversial comments and tone-deaf pronouncements, has only made things worse. She's become a walking, talking PR disaster, a self-sabotaging machine who seems determined to alienate every single potential fan with her condescending lectures and holier-than-thou attitude. "I don't need your business," she snarled at anyone who dared to criticize her or the film. Honey, with the way this movie's performing, it's Disney who might not need your business much longer. Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, as one critic put it, but her wokeness is of the particularly obnoxious, performative variety. It's the kind of wokeness that's less about genuine social justice and more about signaling her own moral superiority, about lecturing everyone else on how they should think and feel. And it's this very attitude, this condescending, dismissive tone, that has turned so many people against her. She's become the embodiment of everything people dislike about Hollywood's obsession with woke ideology, a symbol of the out-of-touch elite who seem to think they know better than everyone else. "She acts like her life is so bad," one commenter observed, "like she's some sort of victim. That's the sort of mentality that's just poisoning people's minds." And Zegler's victim complex is truly baffling. She's the star of a big-budget Disney movie, a role that countless aspiring actresses would kill for, and yet she acts like she's being persecuted, like she's the one being wronged. It's a level of delusion that's almost impressive in its sheer audacity. She's completely out of touch with reality, living in a Hollywood bubble where her every utterance is treated as gospel, where any criticism is dismissed as hate or bigotry.
Zoom in right there, that's it. 163,000 rating, of which it got 1.6, not out of 5. Like, you know, sometimes you go to McDonald's, it's 1.6 out of 5.
Yeah.
1.6 out of 10.
I remember back in 2023 when this was going on and all the little people making videos saying, well, wait, there's so few roles for us in Hollywood. We're being passed over for this. You could have cast 7
Screw
little
you, Peter
people.
Dinklage. Her heroine cannot be in love or be saved by a man, the prince, that she's more focused on becoming the leader she was meant to be, as if women in modern day America must make that choice.
Disney, in their infinite wisdom, had decided to gamble on Rachel Zegler, believing that she, with her youthful energy and social media following, would be the key to revitalizing the Snow White franchise. They poured a staggering $270 million into the production, a colossal sum even by Disney standards, hoping for a box office bonanza that would justify their investment. But instead of a princess who charmed audiences, they got a princess who lectured them. Instead of a fairy tale that sparked joy and wonder, they got a woke-washed mess that left viewers confused and angry. And now, with the film's disastrous performance and Zegler's increasingly erratic behavior, Disney is facing a financial bloodbath and a PR nightmare of epic proportions. This casting choice, this decision to bet the farm on Rachel Zegler, might go down as one of the worst in Hollywood history. Disney, in their desperation to appeal to a younger, more progressive audience, had forgotten a fundamental truth about storytelling. Entertainment should come first. Messaging, especially the kind of heavy-handed, preachy messaging that permeates this Snow White remake, should always be secondary. As Bob Iger himself has said, Disney's mission is to entertain, not to lecture, and in this case, they failed miserably on both counts. This Snow White remake is the film nobody asked for, the reimagining nobody wanted. It's a Frankensteinian monster of a movie, stitched together from a mishmash of half-baked ideas, forced messaging, and a complete disregard for the source material. The reviews have been scathing, with critics using words like disaster, calamity, and train wreck to describe the film. The IMDb rating, a dismal 1.6 out of 10, speaks volumes about the audience's disdain for this cinematic abomination. And the comment sections are filled with angry fans, expressing their disappointment and outrage at Disney's butchery of a beloved classic. "They took out the famous theme song, 'Someday My Prince Will Come,'" one commenter lamented, "because it's not fair for a woman to live for love or want to find love or want to find a prince. They were not going to do that anymore. Instead, we got a generic girl power anthem that's about as inspiring as a wet dish rag." The film's woke storyline, with its heavy-handed messaging about female empowerment and social justice, feels forced and unnatural, a clumsy attempt to shoehorn modern sensibilities into a timeless fairy tale. And the decision to use CGI for the 7 dwarfs, ostensibly to avoid offending people with dwarfism, only added to the film's uncanny artificial feel. It's a classic case of trying too hard, of sacrificing story and character development for the sake of political correctness.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
Wow, what a C.
I don't need your business. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on.
Go get Cheshire Cat.
Go vote blue.
So she just encapsulates everything that most of us cannot stand about modern day feminism and the left in general and Hollywood. Be a leader as a female and fall in love and be rescued by a prince. Like, that's incongruous bull. That's only the left's version of what it means to be a strong woman or female empowerment.
I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
The Snow White remake wasn't just a disappointment, it was a full-blown disaster. Early viewers walked out of near-empty theaters feeling confused, angry, and cheated out of their time and money. The film's opening weekend was a box office catastrophe, earning a paltry $43 million against a gargantuan production budget of $170 million. And the second weekend was even worse, with ticket sales plummeting a staggering 70%. It's the lowest opening weekend for any live-action Disney remake, a record-breaking flop that has sent shockwaves through the House of Mouse. "I'm worried about Rachel Zegler's career," one commentator remarked. "I don't see how she comes back from this." And the irony is, Zegler herself seemed genuinely baffled by the film's failure. She couldn't understand why audiences weren't flocking to see her modernized Snow White, a princess who didn't need a prince, who was more interested in leading a revolution than finding true love. It's a testament to her profound lack of self-awareness, her inability to grasp the basic principles of storytelling, and her utter disconnect from the very audience she was supposed to be entertaining. Zegler's approach to modernizing Snow White wasn't just misguided, it was disrespectful. She repeatedly trashed the original film, calling it outdated and criticizing the prince for being a stalker. "The original cartoon came out in 1937, she said in one interview, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story, with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So, we didn't do that this time." Weird indeed, Rachel. Weird that you would think insulting a beloved classic, a film that has entertained generations of audiences, would somehow endear you to potential viewers of your own movie. Her dismissive attitude towards the original Snow White, and her insistence that her version was superior, only served to alienate fans and reinforce the perception that she was an arrogant, entitled brat.
Of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
People have real problems and no one gives a if she got paid for 17 instead of 18 on her multi-million-dollar salary, which is not calculated by the hour.
And then there was the 18-hour dress fiasco. Zegler, in a move that can only be described as tone-deaf and incredibly entitled, publicly demanded that she be compensated for every single hour she spent wearing the iconic Snow White dress. "For every one of the 18 hours I'm in this Snow White dress," she declared, "I expect to be paid." The internet, predictably, exploded with outrage, accusing Zegler of being greedy, out of touch, and completely lacking in self-awareness. The box office numbers for Snow White were nothing short of catastrophic. The film bombed spectacularly, its opening weekend earnings a fraction of what Disney had projected. The Rotten Tomatoes score, a dismal 44%, reflected the critical consensus that the film was a misguided and ultimately unsuccessful attempt to reimagine a beloved classic. And Zegler, instead of expressing remorse or taking responsibility for her role in the film's failure, seemed genuinely baffled by the negative reaction. She posted videos of herself mocking empty movie theaters, a tone-deaf and insensitive move that only further alienated fans and solidified her image as an out-of-touch celebrity. The Snow White remake, in its attempt to be modern and relevant, ended up being a preachy, unsubtle mess. The film's overt political messaging, its heavy-handed focus on female empowerment and social justice, felt forced and unnatural, as if the filmmakers were more concerned with lecturing the audience than with telling a compelling story. The CGI dwarfs, intended to be a more inclusive representation of the characters, were widely criticized for their uncanny valley appearance and their lack of personality. The entire film felt like a missed opportunity, a cynical attempt to capitalize on a beloved classic while simultaneously undermining its core values and themes.
Disney's Bob Iger says their mission is to entertain, not send messaging as Snow White sales compete for worst performing live-action Disney.
Inside Disney, the reaction to Snow White's failure was reportedly one of panic and recrimination. Executives scrambled to figure out where they went wrong, how a film with such a massive budget and such a beloved source material could have gone so horribly wrong. Rumors swirled about last-minute script changes, reshoots, and internal conflicts over the film's creative direction. The financial losses were substantial, and the blame game, predictably, began, with fingers pointed at everyone from the director to the writers, to, of course, Rachel Zegler herself. The internet, as always, had a field day with Snow White's failure. Memes mocking the film's plot, its characters, and especially Rachel Zegler's performance went viral. Parody videos lampooning her interviews and social media posts circulated online, further cementing her image as a laughingstock. The public backlash was relentless, a tsunami of negativity that threatened to engulf Zegler's career and leave her stranded on the shores of Hollywood obscurity.
Opening ever. Let me say that again. Ever. Next story is Snow White. Snow White bombs, breaks records for the lowest live-action remake.
I mean, look at this right here. Snow White crashes 70% in second weekend box office.
The Snow White debacle sent ripples of anxiety through the entertainment industry. Other studios, witnessing Disney's epic fail, began to rethink their own strategies for remakes and reboots. The film's failure served as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even the biggest brands, the most beloved properties, aren't immune to the consequences of bad creative decisions, tone-deaf marketing, and a lead actress who seems determined to alienate her own audience. The question now is, will Hollywood learn from Disney's mistakes? Or will they continue down the same path of woke-washing and reimagine?
Because once more, look at this right here. This movie has crashed in the second week that it's been out. 70% this movie crashed.
The Rachel Zegler and Snow White story is a cautionary tale, a modern-day fable about the dangers of hubris, the pitfalls of social media, and the importance of respecting your audience. It's a story of a rising star who, through a series of ill-advised choices and self-destructive behaviors, crashed and burned in spectacular fashion. It's a story that reminds us that in the unforgiving world of Hollywood, talent alone isn't enough. Humility, grace, and a healthy dose of self-awareness are just as important, perhaps even more so. What are your thoughts on Rachel Zegler and the Snow White debacle? Do you think she can recover from this? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Hollywood drama, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more juicy gossip and insightful commentary. Until next time, stay tuned, stay safe, and stay informed. Only on Tea Time with Tina.
Right, went over about $250 million. They had the whole dwarf midget issue where they decided they weren't going to have any midget actors, right? They were having DEI-inspired magical creatures to replace. The movie went over budget.